is the prepared adult? Dr. Montessori believed that a critical, symbiotic relationship exists between the child, the adult, and the environment. These connections create a learning triangle that is a hallmark of Montessori pedagogy. Each of these components form a trinity that Dr. Montessori believed should be treated as one. The adult, led by careful observation of the child's needs, demonstrates the use of the materials, models appropriate behavior, guides, and entices the child. The adult also carefully prepares and maintains the environment so that the child is able to interact with it independently. As we dive into the concept of the prepared adult, I wanted to start with a quote from Dr. Montessori that speaks of the importance of this process. She states, "If a child is to be treated differently than he is today, a radical change, and one upon which everything else will depend, must first be made. And that change must be made in the adult." So let's take a look at what that change looks like. Maria Montessori proposed that the preparation of the adult must be threefold: physical, intellectual, and spiritual. The physical preparation of the adult has to do with the training of all aspects of the body, particularly its movement. The adult's fast movements tend to be the one factor that negatively affects a young child's understanding. The child's inability to follow our every move, let alone reproduce them, is due to the fact that their nervous systems are immature until the age of 7. Therefore, when we as the adult try to show the child how to do something, following our pace, the child is unable to do so successfully oftentimes. This is the formative aspect of the adult's preparation, to learn to slow our bodies to enable the child. The intellect, then, is trained through the study of theory and methodology that best responds to the child's needs. It includes the acquisition of knowledge that leads to understanding, so that application is meaningful. And finally, the spiritual training of the adult helps us to truly see, to go beyond casually looking. We must be able to see that which we are helping to bring forth from the child, to see what lies within the child and who we are guiding the child to become. Here's a great quote that I wanted to share on this topic. "Thus seeing, the adult will develop a special sensitivity and awareness that will bring about a unique bond between the two. This deep connection is rooted in the identification with the other, not as a projection of oneself on the other, but as a deep sense of empathy." Maria Montessori says that there is communication that exists from one soul to another, and this is what brings about the transformation of the adult. She states, "This feeling of love is a connection between souls. The soul of the child begins to blend with the soul of the teacher." This is the spiritual preparation. Adults can also prepare themselves to see in this manner by learning the art and science of observation. As a scientist and a medical doctor herself, Dr. Maria Montessori was trained in making careful observations. She applied those observations to her work with children, looking for even the smallest of details. She believed so much in the power of observation and working with children that in her 1946 London lectures, she stated, "Observe little children. Observe them anywhere you can." The process of scientific observation involves looking at things intently to gather impartial information. The art of observation is where we as adults use gathered information to explore meanings and connections. With knowledge about child development, the art of observation allows the prepared adult to identify a child's needs and interests and to make necessary changes to the environment and to their interactions with the child to promote their growth. When speaking to parents, Maria Montessori once stated, "We say this to the teachers in training who enter the children's house. Stand by, remain silent, and do not speak a word to the children. Do not make any noise. Here, the children are in their own world. You must observe simply by looking. You must not wish to judge, correct, or teach. It is only in this way that you can enter into the spirit and practice of the teacher. Although this relates specifically to the training of teachers, I believe it also relates to the training and preparation of parents and caregivers as well, to the preparation of the adult. In any job, it's important to have training and to continue engaging in professional development. As a parent, caregiver, and educator, we can do this by learning more about the child's unique development, finding a training like a positive discipline training, a course in nonviolent communication, exploring many and varied books and resources. Maybe we like listening to podcasts, viewing TED Talks, or listening to audiobooks. And reading and learning things that have nothing to do with being an educator, a parent, or a caregiver, because this gives us our own rich life as well and allows us to make really meaningful connections that branch outside of the world of education and raising children. Becoming a prepared adult requires a lot of really challenging, deep inner work. Maria Montessori believed that it was necessary to identify our own personal limitations and to acknowledge any preconceived ideas that we might have about children. As a servant to the child, the prepared adult needs to be available to guide them, leaving personal motives out of the equation. This inner work allows the adult to welcome the child as they are today and to also see the child that they will become and to guide them along that path. In her book, The Absorbent Mind, Dr. Montessori stated, "The real preparation for education is a study of oneself. The training of the teacher, who is to help life, is something far more than the learning of ideas. It includes the training of character. It is a preparation of the spirit." This spiritual preparation requires the adult to reflect on their educational, parenting, or caregiving practices, to release their ego, and to eagerly begin working on themselves. One way that we can begin working on ourselves is to engage in regular self-care. Often, when we start implementing Montessori practices or we become a Montessori educator, we focus on the child and the environment. What activities should we present? How do we foster the child's independence? How do we encourage children to clean up after themselves? Or maybe we're more focused on other people. How do we help our coworkers or our spouses, our partners, to better understand Montessori? How do we get grandparents or parents of children we're educating on board with Montessori practices? How do we ensure people buy our children toys that are aligned with Montessori for their birthday if we're parents or caregivers? We realize that these things are all important, but we don't always realize that we are important, or at least that we're important enough to also be a priority. Ultimately, though, the only thing that we can control is ourselves, and it's often the most challenging thing to do. It's easier to buy more books, to schedule more coaching calls, to do more professional development, or buy more stuff, new materials, than it really is to slow down and address our own needs. Without self-care, though, it can be really hard to feel prepared to face the realities of educating, parenting, or caring for children. A lack of self-care is not only unfair to us as the adult, but also to the children, because we are not able to be fully present with them. We're unable to fulfill the role of the prepared adult that Maria Montessori outlined. As she described, it is not enough for the teacher to love the child. She must prepare herself and truly work at it. Self-care is the work that she is describing here. It is the preparation. It's the root of becoming the prepared adult, allowing that inward focus that's needed. Some simple ideas for self-care include spending some time alone, walking, thinking, reading, meditating, taking a bubble bath or a long hot shower. Some things you could even do while working include listening to relaxing music or a motivational message like a podcast, being intentional about drinking more water or eating more nutritious meals and snacks, or just simply taking a few deep breaths. As educators, parents, and caregivers, we also need to be aware of our triggers or what pushes our buttons. Often, a child's emotions or behaviors can trigger our own emotions and behaviors that are not relevant or helpful to the situation that we find ourselves in. We need to try to separate our own needs and feelings out from that situation with the child in order to allow us to respond appropriately. Through self reflection, we can start to become more aware of why we think, feel, and behave the way that we do. Through self reflection and self awareness, we can start to become more flexible and adaptive. We can start to become that prepared adult. Some questions that you might want to consider when reflecting on your own educational, parenting, or caregiving practices are: where do my ideas about educating, parenting, or caregiving come from? Where do my expectations about children come from? In what way and to what extent does my own childhood experience influence how I educate, parent, or care for children today? What do I like about educating, parenting, or caring for children? And what would I like to change about my education, parenting, or caregiving practices? The work to become a prepared adult doesn't have to require such deep inner work, at least not all of it. An easy way to get started on this journey is to simply focus on slowing down. It goes back to that physical preparation we talked about. Montessori prepared adults speak and move with careful intention. This is the physical preparation. Since young children watch and absorb our movements, slowing down allows them to better understand and better imitate us. When we slow down, we're also able to give more intentional care. We take the time to choose kind words and to model the behaviors that we want children to absorb and imitate. With a slower pace, we can allow children to practice new skills, like zipping their own coats or putting on their own shoes, without jumping in and doing things for them, robbing them of that learning experience. A slower pace then also promotes the child's independence. Maria Montessori discussed the importance of expressing humility. She saw this as an act of patience and self abnegation. Humility can be shown in a variety of ways, including stepping down from the role of the authority or the all knowing, accepting that we too will learn from the child and that they have important things to share with us and teach us. Get down on their level, show them respect, and let them know that you're equals. Consider nothing too small to absorb your attention. Carefully observe those minute details and seemingly insignificant activities of the child to learn more about their development, their needs, and their interests. Remove any preconceptions that you might have about children, about child development, or maybe even about the particular child that you're educating, parenting, or caring for through that process of self reflection that we discussed. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, admit your flaws and mistakes and faults. Let the child see you make errors. Apologize when you do something wrong. This is a wonderful, raw way for children to learn that we're all human and it's okay to make mistakes as long as we learn and grow from them. And finally, sometimes we can become so busy trying to improve things that we forget to take time to appreciate where we are in the present. Acknowledge and accept where you are right now in your journey while striving to learn more and to be a better model for the children you serve. Remember to tell yourself you're enough and you're doing your best. The process of becoming the prepared adult will take time and practice. Even the most veteran Montessorians are still practicing, but it does get easier and becomes more natural every day. As Maria Montessori says in her book, Education and Peace, the child developing harmoniously and the adult improving himself at his side make a very exciting and attractive picture. And remember, We have lots of other really wonderful videos, so make sure you've subscribed to our channel and that you're following along on our social media platforms. Until next time, have a wonderful day.